you do what you can. You write for 50 pages, and then ring. It's time to go make. Oh my God, we got funding for Perks. Let's go.
Yeah.
A year and a half later, you go back to it, and I kept coming back because it kept calling me home.
When I was a freshman in high school, I read the Perks novel for the first time, Perks being a Wallflower. And that was also the same year that the movie came out.
Oh,
so
hey.
It's pretty special to me
Perfect.
as a freshman.
You were a freshman in high school in that September of 2012. Look at you.
Yes. And
so that was one of your movies. That's really exciting.
I thought I was so clever telling everyone in high school that I started as a Charlie and ended very much like as a Patrick.
Good for you. By the way, that's what I would hope for everybody. That's what they you start the shy person, you end like the extrovert who's like, fuck it.
Yeah. So now every time I revisit that book or the movie, it's almost like I'm learning something about myself back then, and I'm curious how that story has evolved for you all this time later.
That's a great question. It's changed over time. In the sense, like when I started writing the book, I came up with a title my senior year of college. Yeah, I was your age, 21, is when I thought of the words, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I was 21. And I tried it then, it didn't quite work. I tried it as a screenplay, it didn't quite work. And it was 26, went through a terrible breakup, and I was in a really dark place, and I was like, well, and I'm never forget, it was like a Saturday morning, I was like, I'm either going to write something or I'm going to go crazy. Because I was so sad, and I was so grief-stricken. And so I had these two ideas, and I kind of slapped them together, and Charlie's voice and those letters started for me.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the book, I just felt connected to him. I was only 26, and so high school was 8 years behind me, and so I felt really close to it. So then you finish it, and then it gets published, and I'm still a young person. And then what's changed is just as I've gotten older, I'm 49 now. I published it 20 years ago. I'm looking at it all through just older eyes, and it's really interesting to like find myself maybe with a lot more sympathy for what I was going through.
Yeah.
What I was writing about. Certainly a lot more. There's a lot of nostalgia for me in the book, in the story, but the movie changed it all, because for me, there's the Charlie and the Sam and the Patrick that was born in my brain or my heart. But now there's the Charlie, Sam, and Patrick that is Logan Lerman, and it is Emma Watson, and it is Ezra Miller, and Mae Whitman, and all of them. And I was able to like give a piece. I was like, here, you take Sam now. You take Patrick now. And now let it live. Let it live on a screen. Let it live in these moments on set that we all captured together. And I feel incredibly close to that experience. I love the summer of 2011. One of the best times I've ever had as a person. And then to look at the movie. Now when I go home, because I'm from Pittsburgh, I shot in my hometown. And when I go home, very often when I'm driving around, we all do this. You drive around in your old neighborhood, and you go, oh yeah, I remember this. Now it's like not only is it the life I lived there, but then it's the life I filmed there, which was based on the life I lived there. That is a remarkable experience to like go, to feel as nostalgic about the restaurant where you shot the scene.
Yeah.
Based on this other restaurant where it actually took place. It's remarkable 20 years later to meet as many people and to see how the book affected them or the movie affected them to this day. Someone that like read it last month for the first time. And I was just in Mexico, in Guadalajara at the big book festival there. And I'm speaking to 400 people in Mexico, and it was translated into, I had no idea that it had traveled that deeply, and I signed like 1,000 books that day. It was unbelievable. And that keeps me connected to it, because when I meet these amazing young people and I look at their faces, and the fact that energy has not changed with the internet, it hasn't changed with social media, I don't know, it's really interesting. It's like looking into a crystal ball that looks at the past. The reason why I haven't written a book in 20 years is that I thought Perks was a one-off. It was like a fluke almost. Like, well, I did that, and I'm glad that people love it, and that's great. But I'm a movie guy. It took me longer in my life to realize that there is no such thing as a blank guy or a blank girl of anything. That it's, do what you want to do. My advice to you as somebody that wants to do this is, just put in the time in both worlds and have a great time of it, because your natural flow and talent will find itself. It just will. The advice I always give to young people is the one thing I know is, look, time and talent and intelligence, you're going to climb the ladder, whatever it is. That's just the way it is. Like, you'll become the older person, you'll become the more seasoned veteran, you'll become blah, blah, blah. You're going to climb the ladder. The ladder almost climbs you for itself, right? Just pick the right ladder. That's what's important. If you're on the right ladder, then you're gonna be really fulfilled. It's gonna be the right thing. If you're on the wrong ladder, you might have some regret. You might find yourself in however many years going, why did I put all the time into this?
3 promotions later. Yeah.
Exactly, 3 promotions later.
Yeah.
And you get used to the money, or you get used to this, that, and the other. For me, it was interesting that being a novelist, like an imaginary friend for me was writing that novel was returning to this idea of like, what is, I had to prove to myself I could do it again. Yeah. So I did it. And it won't be another 20 years. Like, I'm in love with it again. So I'll just balance both. I'll go dear Evan Hansen, and then it's back to the drawing board, either adapting Imaginary Friend for a movie or television, or writing the sequel to it.
So there's a sequel in your brain.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I know the title. I won't say it.
Yes.
But I think it was.
Well, when you turn this off,
yeah,
I will gladly tell you the title.
A lesser known fact that I learned after experiencing Perks is that you wrote the screenplay for Rent.
Yes.
Which is a story that was also with me like through my childhood, for better or worse.
It's for better. It's for better. It's a lovely.
It definitely is.
Lovely.
Yeah. What was your experience with Rent before going on to that project?
Rent was really interesting. It was very good timing for me. The year I was hired, 1999, so it was the same year that Perks was published. Musicals had been out for a while. Evita came out, did okay, but really it's like Newsies, even though the Broadway show did really well, the movie didn't do that well. And so the live action musical was just kind of dead. It wasn't, no one could figure it out. And so at the time, I was really young. I was very cheap for the studio. And so I was perfect on paper of like, look, we don't know what this thing is. This kid, let's see what he can do with it, right? I really feel, and they liked my ideas. Because I asked them once, why'd you hire me? Yeah. They go, you were young and cheap and you had good ideas. I said, okay. So that was it. I felt so strong. I love the show. And I love the show, and it's one of the early, it helped articulate my mission with my art. I not only want to help people that might feel on the outskirts feel connected to themselves, I also want to do the best I can to translate what it is these folks are going through for people who otherwise may not have sympathy, understanding, or empathy for that. So here's a good example. When I saw Rent the second time, first time I just enjoyed the show. Second time I had the gig and I'm looking around and I'm just studying the audience as much as I'm studying the stage.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. So, spoilers. I would imagine anyone that's watching you probably likes Rent. But anyway, when Angel's fate is decided,
yeah,
and Collins is singing, and I'm looking in the audience, and there are the kids in the front row, the first 2 rows that get the cheap tickets. They're crying. Here's the wife, she's crying. Here's that wife, she's crying. Here's the young person, they're crying. And here's the dad or the husband, who paid for it probably, in the suit going like this. And he doesn't feel anything. And I was fascinated by that guy. Because I was like, okay, he obviously likes theater enough to be here. And at that time, it was still like early days, so it was not a cheap ticket.
Yeah.
So he's here, and I'm like, what is preventing that guy from crying? You know what I mean? And I was fascinated by it. Because I know what he's thinking. On part level, it's part of what he's thinking is, just pay your goddamn rent. What's this? Right? Just pay your fucking rent. And because I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which Pittsburgh is a really interesting place that has all this, it's a great city. I love it. I love being from there. But there's a salt of the earth, take care of your own kind of, I was raised with that.
Yeah.
So it's compassion, but come on, let's go. Right? And so I was like, okay, is there a way to write this movie? Is there a way to address, because, we had lost Jonathan Larson. He was such a young, oh my God. If you heard some of the other songs, that it was titanic loss for musical theater when he passed away so young. But so we didn't have him, and so it was like, okay, how do you do things that might help this along, to translate it. Because I want that dad to cry. I want the husband to cry. Because I know everybody else will. And like, how can I like say to the choir or say to the people that understand, hey, we're all in this together. And meanwhile, wouldn't it be great if that person got it too? Because then they would be nicer about stuff and more respectful. Anyway.
You're directing Dear Evan Hansen.
Dear Evan Hansen, yes.
I'm curious if there's anything about your vision for that film that you can share.
I can share nothing. I'm sorry. I wish I could.
I get it.
You'll have me back. When that movie, because it is such early days that like I almost wouldn't want to jinx anything. It's like we don't even know where we're shooting it. Like we're figuring things out right now.
Right. Yes. I couldn't not ask, but I know that is true.
Yes. Yes.
You were once in your 20s and
absolutely
wanting to do your thing full time. What was the moment that you thought maybe that would work out?
Well, I always had a confidence that I would make it, whatever make it mean, because I was really raised with an expectation like that there was no other choice. It wasn't like you make it or you don't make it. Yeah. I was like, I have to do this. The moment that I was like, it's going to be okay, I'll never forget it. So I write The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I read it in 96, 97, finished it this summer of 97. Trying to find an agent. I couldn't get an agent for a year. Couldn't get a publisher, nothing for a year. And it was through a guy that I knew and this girl that he was dating who went to college with the person that like ran MTV Books, etc. Really amazing people, all of them. I got the phone call. I was temping, and I got the phone call that like they're going to publish your book.
Wow!
And that was the summer of 1998. And I went outside on my lunch.
I was born.
There you go. Perfect. I went outside in the courtyard and I cried my eyes out because I was like, the advance was $20,000, which was all the money in the world. I mean, it'd be like 50 grand now. And, I was living on very little, because it was young times. And that was the last day I had a day job. Yeah, it was the early summer of 1998. Being young, you scrape it together and you do whatever you have to do to survive, and then you're throwing all of your passion into your art when you can. And when you're young, you have more time, which is great. But that was the moment. To answer your question, it was that. When you're young, you kind of wait for inspiration to find you. When you're older, like when you're 49, you find inspiration. It's not. It's like this thing of I don't have time. I got 2 kids. I'm married. I got a million things I'm juggling. So I'm like, all right, I got 3 hours to write. I got to go.
You got to go to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what I tell writers is, look, especially like you're facing the blank page, is to say, hey, just write today, edit tomorrow. If you have writer's block, I personally believe you don't. I believe you're just editing too fast. Just write. Mm-hmm. Even if you have to put on a timer and just type until, and not let yourself stop and just write a bunch of garbage. Right, yeah. Of course. Blah, 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 blah. But, I guarantee you, 3 of those sentences are fantastic. Just let tomorrow tell you what today was worth. That's really, that's very helpful to do.
I'm curious, on a day-to-day basis when you're on set filming a movie, Wonder or Perks or Dear Evan Hansen, what is your priority as a director working with actors?
I would say to you as a young director, really any director, is make sure, there's just some really great advice that John Malkovich gave me. He was one of the producers on Perks of Being a Wallflower. He was there for the first week and a half of shooting, and he pulled me aside right before he left. He said, listen, he's like, I love your script because it has real heart. Because you have heart, you don't need sentiment. So direct this movie like a guy from Pittsburgh. Always get the tough take. Mm-hmm. I mean, verbatim. I'll never forget it as long as I live because, he's a hero. He's John Malkovich. He's amazing. Yeah. And for John Malkovich to say that, I was like, okay. So whenever I'm there, I'm getting the lightning in the bottle. But there's always this little voice in my head that says, okay, don't fall in love with the moment so much that you don't either get the tough take, or let's say the moment's sad. Let's say Via's looking down the thing and there's Augie and he's getting all the attention and I'm not. Sad take, sad take, sad take. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, Bella, this take, I want you to look over there and just love them. Just smile. Just be so happy that Augie had a good day at school, right? Or not a good day at school, but that Augie's getting some relief. You get that and then now you're cutting it together and you have the choice of okay, sad Via? I love my brother Via. And I went, wow, I really like this girl, right? And
Right.
you're just slightly shading all these things just to have those choices. I hope that answers your question. I mean,
It does.
that's my priority. My priority is I want magic. I want lightning in a bottle on set, but I want choice.
Yeah, that reminds me so much of Anne Hathaway in Brokeback Mountain. I think she did very similar, like, 2 takes of knowing one thing and another, and like
Yeah.
shade.
Oh, it was a great performance.
Yeah.
Truly, like I would actually put that on, if I'm thinking about it, that's probably my personal top for her. She's a wonderful actress. She won the Oscar for Les Mis, but
Yeah.
like that thing at Brokeback, like whenever you see a talented person go, oh, well, I didn't know you could do that. Like that's always exciting, and that was the moment for me with her. So that's really cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And also, I should mention one other thing: the 20th anniversary of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. You have it.
Here we go.
There it is. Do you know the surprise at the end?
Well, I experienced the surprise at Book Soup in West Hollywood.
You were
Because
there.
you
That's
read it.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
That was amazing. And hearing you read the 20 Years Later chapter, I mean... But can you tell me about it?
Yeah, well, the 20th anniversary was coming out, and Imaginary Friend was coming out, and my publishers said, hey, would you want to do something to commemorate the 20th anniversary? And I said, yeah, like, I want to, but I don't want to just, like, slap a sticker on it and throw in a couple letters that I received and call it something new when it's not new. I was like, if I'm going to do an edition, I want to use this one moment to and what Charlie is to me, and so, yeah, to be able to write a letter, a new afterword that starts, Dear Friend, it's been over 20 years since I sent you a letter.
Yeah.
And I said sent, not wrote. Sent. Very important.
Oh, wow.
Yes, indeed. Because who knows? But yeah, I wanted to write to, almost to my 26-year-old self.
Yeah.
Of like, you made it. You're going to be okay. Because the one thing that I think creates generation gaps is that adults very often, because they've lived this time, they know certain things, but just to be able to say to the next generation of young people, like, Charlie made it, and so will you. Right. I mean, I couldn't think of a better platform to throw this into the world, and it's been very, very moving to read that letter, because I've done many, many events, to read the letter and to look out. Sometimes I lose and I cry, to look out in the audience and people are crying everywhere, to realize, because everybody knows when they're in that audience, when I say this thing of like, if you're reading these words, you won today, you're here and you have choices and you can do this. Like, it's really wonderful to not only that Charlie grew up enough to say this, but that I had this platform to actually be able to share it, which was always what this book was. I wrote it for me. I published it for me and for everybody else to say, hey, like, we all have this in common. We all have gone through things. Like, you're beautiful exactly the way you are, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And so, anyway, it was really, really moving, and I'm glad you were there for that unveiling. Just to never forget the freshman, because that kid, the kid with the dreams, is what keeps moving the boat through the water. It keeps moving you forward, and just never forget that person, because that'll happen. And I have to say, like, just for you, it's like, I'm really excited for you and everything that you're going to do. And so just thank you for your time. This is wonderful. You know what I mean? I'm always encouraged. Whenever I go anywhere, I see brilliant young people and I say, like, it's your turn now. You know what I mean? There are many more of these to go. And if you consider this like one of your touchstones, God bless you for it, and go make the next kid's touchstone. That's your job. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow.
All right.
This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.